Hi, it's Anna from Girl and Bird. I just wanted to show you today how I made the wax seals on my wedding invites. Stationery isn't usually my thing, so usually it's just maps and textiles, but I'm getting married in September and I really wanted to do as much of the kind of stationery DIY and signage as I could. So yeah, I did some research into how the best way to do the wax seals were, and I just thought I'd share it in case you were interested in doing it yourself. Before I show you how to do it, I thought I'd show you a bit of the variation that you can get from basically just using slightly different techniques. So this is a very kind of smooth and single colour looking seal. That was done using just one colour rather than multiples like these ones. And this was done onto a silicone mat rather than direct onto the invites. So you can see with this one, for example, just trying to find a good example, like this one, the texture and the raised quality of the ribbon has meant that it hasn't created such a pristine seal, but that was the kind of look I was going for. I don't mind if they're not perfect because that's just, I like a bit of imperfection. So yeah, and as I said, these are kind of single colour, but you can get really interesting effects by mixing different colours, and I'll show you how I did that. So you need different things depending on what method you're using. I'll show you both. What you always need is a wax stamp. This is a personalised one that we had done with our initials on it, but this is just one that I bought from Amazon that has, you know, you can get the whole alphabet. And if you look on Etsy, there's lots of different options as well for kind of pre-made ones. There's hearts, there's like, I don't know, animals, there's all sorts available. I have marked the top, so like the north of the stamp on the underside. I don't know if you can see that there, just so I know when I'm stamping what needs to be facing up and where it needs to go. You will also always need some wax, so you can get it either in sticks like this or in a tub in little pellets. You can also get a kind of long, it's kind of like this but with a wick on the end. It's a bit bigger than that. I haven't tried that, but that's another way of doing it. So the sticks tend to be for if you're using a glue gun, the pellets tend to be for if you're using a burner. You can also cut the sticks down into pellets. If you're not sure which to get, I'd say get the sticks because you can't put this into a glue gun. I'll start with the burner first. The way it works is that I'm just looking for my lighter, you take a tea light and you light it. You then put the little burner over the top, place the spoon in the burner and drop pellets of the wax into the burner. So I find that about 3 per wax melt is about right, or per seal is about right. You might need kind of 2.5, but if you're doing multiples, then it's better to start with a few more than you need because you can just add to that. This is a very nicer looking way to do it. Like, I feel like if you're taking photos for Instagram, it's great, but I didn't find it necessarily very practical. It took a long time, and I found over time the underside of the spoon got very sooty, which just caused a lot of mess, and when you're trying to keep quite a clean, tidy space to work in, it's just not ideal. But if you're just doing a few, or you really want to enjoy doing it slowly, then I think they're great. So I'm going to show you how to do it onto a surface rather than directly onto the invites because that's a bit easier to start with. This is just a heat-proof silicone mat. I think you can get them from Lakeland, or I'll find out where I got mine from. These are great if you want to make lots of very neat ones that you're not applying directly to the invites or whatever you're doing them for. You can do lots and lots on here, and then peel them off, and then you can get these sticky, double-sided sticky pads where you just peel off the back, and that can then be stuck onto something. So for example, that's what I did with this invite. So I could do it on here and just stick it there, and then that's great. Doesn't work if you're doing it on ribbon so much because it will just kind of peel off, but it's great for if you're putting it onto packaging or onto an envelope or something that you don't necessarily want it to seal. Okay, what have I done with my pin? Let me just move those out of the way, and you can see here that it's starting to melt up, and I just like to kind of swirl it a bit. So if you're, oh, I should have said, so you can either do just one coloured bead of wax or multiple. I've tried it with 3 and I think that's probably a bit too much colour, but obviously you can go for a solid colour like that as well if you'd rather. I just really like the mixture of colours personally. So that looks like it's just about melted. So what I'm going to do is, so have your stamp at the ready, and if you're doing it onto a silicone mat, great. If you're doing it directly onto a surface, just trying to find something, I'll just do it onto the other side of this, or I'll do the next one onto that. So yeah, you just have to have your surface ready, and it's good to have everything within reach, but not so that you're going to knock it over, which I probably will. Okay, so anyway, actually do the wax melt. So you just kind of pour it over and dribble it into a circle-ish shape. You don't have to work super fast, but you don't want to let it set too much. And pop that back on there. If you're really quick, get some more wax in, melting, and then check for your marker to see what's at the top, and then gently push the seal down onto it. And you don't want to whack it down. You don't want to put it too slowly because otherwise the wax will start to harden. But just, it'll take a few tries to get it right, but once you get there, it'll be fine. And as you can see, that's kind of, because it won't stick to the silicone, that's already lifted up. It's actually still a bit wet. But yeah, so just let it cool before you try and remove. If I was to just kind of drag or like pull the stamp off now, it would make a really messy stamp. It would kind of, I mean, that one's not even too bad, but it would just look really messy. I found that I was finding it quite difficult to get the 2 parts apart when I first started doing it. And one good way to do it is to have a little dish of olive oil and to dip your seal in the olive oil kind of every 3 or 4 wax seals that you make, and just wipe the excess off with a piece of tissue roll or like kitchen roll or whatever, and that just means that it's a bit less likely to stick and make a really messy seal. Right, I'm gonna give that a go, and then it just peels off, and there you've got a lovely galaxy inspired seal. So I'm just going to put that there, and now I'm going to do it directly onto that pin. It's really hot now, so don't leave pins on the metal bit. Okay, so same as last time, just in a kind of circular shape. And then rest it down and let it sit. I found when I was trying to kind of research into this and find the best techniques, all of the videos that I was watching were sped up this bit, so I was like, I have no idea how long I should be leaving it for. So I know it might not make for the most interesting video, but I'm just gonna kind of talk over it. And while that's setting, I just thought next I'll show you how to do how to use the glue gun now. So this is just a really cheap glue gun from the range. I think it was about £6, and I've got 2 of them. There's a different colour wax in each, so that's how I managed to get the marbled effect whilst not using kind of melting over the flame. So if you want 3 colours, you could have 3 glue guns, although that might get a bit much. But I wasn't sure whether it would work, and it works fine, just using 2 colours and 2 different glue guns. Actually, yeah, that needs a little bit longer. Oh no, that's fine. So I'll just do this one. There we go. And I'm gonna, I'm going to do this one direct onto the silicone mat because then I can actually use it for an invite rather than just doing loads and loads of videos of things that I then can't use. I'm going to blow that out. And where's the top? There we go. Onto there. And I don't have any tissue right here, but what I'd say is just wipe that pretty soon after you finished using it, because otherwise it will just get really messy. I've just gone and got a little bit of olive oil on some kitchen roll, just so that it kind of slicks the stamp a little bit better. Just be careful, if you're using something like tracing paper, make sure that you don't get oil on your hands and then touch the tracing paper, because it will mark it. So I'm just going to move that over there, and just kind of wipe the stamp off a little bit so it's not dripping in oil. It just seems to improve the stamp a little bit. Don't put that up. Okay, so glue guns. This is just like a standard glue gun, and instead of putting the glue gun stick in, I've used these sticks of wax. I can't remember where I got them from, so I'll tell you later. But basically it just works exactly the same way. So I'll do it with this other stamp first. It's not attached to its handle just because I only got one handle, so just ignore that for a second. And what I wanted to show you is how you can see that the stick is kind of disappearing. So in a second I'll need to put another stick of wax in, but for now let's just pop that there. So you just feed it in the same way as you would a normal glue gun. You usually lose a little bit of wax as you're trying to like push it in, so. And you don't have to use the same wax colour that was in there before, you can just put a new colour in. Don't waste it, don't waste it. It's going to be a really odd shaped one. There we go. It's really... waste not, want not. So there I kind of mixed a little bit of the other wax with it as well. So it gives it a bit of a two-tone effect. And I think I've just done it again with picking it up too soon. I don't know if the weather makes a difference. It's really warm in my studio. So that might have an effect on it, but I don't know. A bit of trial and error. But I'll just let them cool down a bit and come back in a second. Okay, that was only about 30 seconds, just if you're interested in how long it takes for it to cool properly. So that's come off fine. You can see where I picked it up too soon. There's a little bit of kind of, doesn't look so great there. But, you know, as I said before, they don't all need to be perfect. That's part of the beauty of it. Unless you want them to be perfect, in which case probably don't watch my video, because I'm not so much of a perfectionist. But yeah, that has really helped. Using that little bit of oil has really helped. So I've just rubbed it again on the little bit of tea towel that I had, kitchen towel, whatever, you know what I mean. And it might be a little bit oily, but like just give it a wipe and it'll be fine. So I think this is much easier than using the candle because it's neater, it's tidier, it's cleaner. I find it's really, really so much easier. And I think you have quite a lot of control as well. You can kind of say, okay, I want it to... Again, just don't listen to me because I'm not very good at doing stuff. I just wing it the whole time. But you do have more control with where you want the wax to go with this. You don't have so much awareness of how much you're putting on. That's the one thing I would say. So I maybe use a little bit more using the glue gun than I would with the wax pellets. So I'll show you quickly. I'll show you how I used the ribbon and the tracing paper. So I've got my A4 tracing paper and I just made a little block that is wider than the invite. Yeah, so a little bit wider so that the invite can slide in and out of the tracing paper easily, so people don't have to rip the seal off, just like that. Yeah, so I made a template, folded the tracing paper around the template, and before I start doing these I will prep it with ribbon, which I'll show you in a second. I reckon that's probably, yeah, there we go, beautiful. Okay, so if you want to do something very similar to what I did with my invites and have a piece of tracing paper with some ribbon wrapped around and then the wax seal holding it all closed, this is how to do it. So you need your ribbons. This ribbon's amazing. It's 100% silk and it was ridiculously expensive for ribbon. Okay, so I want that to go. It's quite hard to do this with camera tripod in the way. So before, when I did all of them in one go, so I did about 50 in basically one sitting. So I'm really glad I wasn't using the little burner thing. So I checked the length that I'd need for the ribbon and then just cut loads of pieces so they were ready just to, on hand, to grab. So if you wrap the ribbon around, I don't mind if they're kind of twisted around each other too much because I think it looks quite nice. And then, so I'm going to want to put my wax seal here because that's where the tracing paper meets. So I'm just going to put a paperweight drop on that and prepare the other one so that I don't have to keep faffing with the tracing paper in between. If I wasn't worried about budget, I'd probably have got a second wax seal personalised so that I could do them more quickly, but that just seems a bit extravagant when we're only going to use them for one wedding. Okay, so that's a nice weight for that one. Right, so I've got my glue guns, they're hot. I probably shouldn't have left them for so long, but never mind. Okay, gonna just put a bit of oil on that again, and so I want to go over where the ribbon meets. You probably need a little bit more wax than usual when you're doing it over the top of ribbon because the ribbon kind of disrupts where the wax wants to go. So by that I mean, if you can see here, it's not spread out evenly and nor has it there, and that's just because, you know, the ribbon is getting in its way basically. These aren't my normal snips. These are the ones I stabbed myself with. Maybe that's why they're blunt. Oh, there they are. Hang on. That's better. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that a little bit longer for the wax to cool. And this is what I mean by having two wax stamps. So I could just, I'm not going to do it with that one because that's a waste, but yeah. If I had two, I could just get on with the next one. And you can kind of give it a little wobble to see. You can see, I don't know if you can see here, but the wax is still moving a bit and I want to wait until it's stopped. When I wiggle this slightly, I don't want the wax around it to move because that's a recipe for pulling all of it up. Right, I think that's okay. There we go. Lovely, lovely. And just put that out the way somewhere clean. And this time. Twisted. Oh, I've got to the end of that stick of wax, but I don't have time to replace it while I'm doing this one. It's this one. Again, why am I doing a tutorial video if I can't do it properly? To show you how it will actually look when you try and do it, I suppose. There we go. Let's leave that one out of the way. And then, so back to this one, just take that kind of block out and let me grab one of the invites. That will just go in there nicely like that. And then when they take it out of the envelope, it will look lovely. too soon. Yeah, so I hope that's been informative. I hope I've made some sense and not just rambled. But yeah, to kind of summarise, I'd say use the glue guns rather than the burner, which is probably still hot. There we go. Because I think it's a lot cleaner. It's probably cheaper in the long run as well, and I think it's just as easy to get a colour mix if you get 2 glue guns as if you're using a burner. And there we go, that is done. So yeah, that is my tutorial on how to make the wax seals that I used for my wedding invites, and I'll also be using them for my place names.